Top 5 most common questions about the sun and children. I am a pediatrician, candidate of medical sciences, neonatologist, and the chief pediatrician of the Children's Clinic. My name is Anna Levadnaya. This channel is about children's health. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let's discuss how much sunscreen you need to apply for good protection against ultraviolet. The most important thing is to apply a thick layer and not to skimp on the product. The thicker, the better. For a general understanding, doctors suggest using the 2-finger rule. You need to squeeze out 2 strips onto your index and middle fingers and apply a good layer of the product. And this will be the approximate amount of the product recommended to be applied to one of the 11 conditional areas of the body that doctors have divided. For example, 2 fingers for the face and neck, 2 for the arms, 2 for the upper body, and so on, as shown in the picture. We are talking about children's fingers or adult fingers, depending on whom you are applying the product to. Another common question is how to remove sunscreen. If it needs to be removed, then with what? In general, yes, it is better to wash it off, especially if the sunscreen has a thick consistency, if you haven't been swimming in the sea, or if it hasn't come off on its own with the help of a towel. It all depends on the product. Usually a non-water resistant gentle product can be washed off with plain water. If the texture of the sunscreen is thicker, you can use a soft pH neutral product, gel, soap, or children's micellar water to remove it. Another question is when to apply the sunscreen. It is recommended to apply it in advance 10-15 minutes before going out in the sun to allow the cream to absorb. It is also recommended to reapply the products every 2 hours, especially if the child is swimming or sweating heavily. A common question is, which is better, sunscreen or protective clothing? It is always better to choose, not to apply something to the skin than to apply it. The safest way to protect a child from the sun is to avoid being in the sun during peak ultraviolet activity hours. These are the morning and evening hours when the UV index is less than 3. And if that is not possible, it is recommended to stay in the shade, wear long sleeves and a hat, or special clothing with ultraviolet protection. And if all of this is not possible, then yes, use sunscreen and sunglasses. The clothing is of high quality and, importantly, a safe means of protection from the sun. It is available for children of any age, starting from birth. This is not just any cotton t-shirt and shorts, but clothing that is labeled as protective against ultraviolet. Additionally, it dries quickly, is lightweight, which does not increase the risk of heat stroke, and allows the child to dry off quickly and conveniently after swimming. The denser and more complex the fabric weave, the less the threads will allow ultraviolet rays to pass through. And clothing is evaluated by the UPF standard, ultraviolet protection factor, which indicates how many units of ultraviolet will pass through the fabric. For example, with PF 50, it means that 1 out of 50 units will reach the skin, while the rest will be reflected and absorbed by the fabric. Choose maximum protection. For example, when swimming, opt for polyester with a UPF of 50 to 100, depending on what you can find available. Special clothing with ultraviolet protection is labeled as rash guard. It can be made from polyester or nylon, elastane or spandex. Indeed, as I mentioned earlier, it dries quickly. It is comfortable for children during active movements, including in water and under the sun. They are available from various sports brands including Columbia, Patagonia, Rayma, Beverly Kids, and so on. Look for what you can find. There are one-piece suits and separate swimwear. It is better to choose long sleeves, although short sleeves are also available. Additionally, you can buy a cap with protection for the ears and the back of the neck. We will still protect exposed areas of the body, hands, and feet with sunscreen and sunglasses. What sometimes also concerns parents is the composition of sunscreen, what should be included in a sunscreen. It is believed that the most effective sunscreen filters are zinc oxide and titanium dioxide in combination with zinc oxide to cover both UVA and UVB rays. Secondly, avobenzone is stabilized by other photofilters and protects against UVA rays. Mexeril is a reliable water-resistant filter that protects against UVA rays. Tinosorb S and M are broad-spectrum filters that protect against UVA and UVB. A good and reliable filter. There are also unreliable components that may be present in the cream. There may be undesirable reactions to dyes and fragrances. There can also be oxybenzone, which may cause phototoxic reactions, penetrate the skin, and cause various undesirable activities. octocrylene, which causes phototoxic reactions. Questions arise about nanoparticles. It is better to avoid them for now. Some studies claim that these nanoparticles do not penetrate the layers of the skin, while others say they do. Most likely it is absolutely safe for adults, but children's stratum corneum is thinner than that of adults, so it is still better to avoid nanoparticles in products if possible, I think. It is better if there is no alcohol because it dries out the skin. This is undesirable for delicate children's skin. It is mainly added to sprays, so do not choose sprays. Also be cautious with natural oils. They have a rather low level of protection. SPF 1, 5 and 8 cannot provide good protection. Plus, oils can cause photosensitization. If you use a spray, make sure it is applied in a thick layer and does not get into the eyes or lungs. If the cream causes skin irritation, be sure to change it and keep an eye on the expiration date. The question often arises, what about vitamin D? It needs to be obtained from the sun. There were indeed concerns that sunscreens might reduce the production of vitamin D in the skin. This concern was related to the fact that sun exposure is necessary for the synthesis of 25-hydroxyvitamin D in the skin under the influence of ultraviolet light, and there are concerns that photoprotective agents may lead to a deficiency of vitamin D. But we do not have clear evidence from studies on humans that the use of sunscreen significantly suppresses or reduces the amount of vitamin D in a child and its production. Vitamin D supplements are considered a safer, better tolerated, and more affordable alternative than ultraviolet exposure to achieve adequate vitamin D levels in children. Of course, it is possible to be in the sun during safe hours. These are the morning, spring, and evening hours when the ultraviolet index is no higher than 3. And during this time, you can safely allow your child to absorb vitamin D through the skin without any protective measures. Pay attention to the ultraviolet index. It is available in the weather app on almost all smartphones. This feature is available on iPhones, and you can now display it on the screen so that whenever you check the time, you also see the ultraviolet index. It's a very convenient feature, so use it and monitor it. An index of 2, 1 or 2, 3 is still okay, and you can go without sunscreen. But when it is 3 or higher, it's time to get out of direct sunlight because such rays become unsafe. The sun is a proven carcinogen. Besides causing reactions you may have heard of, like skin aging, it also has a mutagenic effect on the skin and is a proven carcinogen. If a child gets sunburned in childhood, the risk of skin cancer, such as melanoma, increases as they get older. So we are giving our children an unpleasant gift when we allow them to sunbathe. Unfortunately, the myth that it is beneficial or important for children to sunbathe. And that summer is a great time to get vitamin D is very persistent. Many believe that a tanned child is a healthy child, but this is not true. We try to protect children from ultraviolet rays and teach them to take care of themselves, use sunscreen, and understand what the ultraviolet index is. Because when they grow up and, for example, stay in a summer camp, they might forget to use sunscreen. This should be part of the culture of raising children, part of hygiene. And part of the usual simple routine actions that we teach our children. Take care of children, including protecting them from the sun. This was Anna Levadnaya, pediatrician, candidate of medical sciences. On my channel, you will find everything about children's health. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for your attention.